Broadcasting from the Blanchistan Centre. This is Phoenix FM.
The internet is a communications tool used the world over where people can come together to bitch about movies and share pornography with one another.
According to the Nerd Index, you should be upside down in a junior high toilet around the clock.
This is We'll do it live! Tide goes in, tide goes out. Never miss communication.
It's over 9,000! My name is Foxy.
The balls are in there.
Don't face me, bro! It's a trap! I'm a firing believer! Time to Hey, Charlie, wake up! Oh, God, oh, man!
Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of the Nerd to Know Basis Show, airing on Phoenix 92.5 FM and all those other wonderful places on the internet like Spotify, our website, and YouTube now, which Dara tells me has been going very well. We had fun reading the comments last week. But Dara isn't here this week. This week with me is Kev. Kev, how you doing?
Kev is good, and Kev would also like to really thank everybody jumping in on YouTube. It's been just great to see everybody in and watching and getting so mad about Star Wars.
I'm gonna kill the momentum of this episode straight away. No Acolyte this week.
No. The numbers are going to drop. We're not talking Star Wars. We're not getting angry about it. But what I want to talk
there's
about...
no shortage of options. Don't worry.
No, instead I want to talk about an actually good science fiction TV show.
I suspect we'll get back to it at some point, but being honest, I haven't seen Beyond Episode 2. I'm tired of hearing about it, tired of talking about it. I've never been so exhausted by a show I'm not watching.
Kian, this is why you got to come over to my side, and we just ignore Star Wars. It's great. I've known peace.
Like, what do you think about when you're not thinking about Star Wars?
Nothing. The anxieties of real life, sure, but not Star Wars.
But what do you do if, like, a Sith Lord turns up? What do you do?
I don't think about it. I ignore it, and it ceases to be. It's a wonderful life here. Anyway, actually good science fiction. So, I have been recently watching, there's a new TV show on Netflix called Scavengers Reign.
We're going to stop you right there. Can we do our new ongoing segment first?
Okay, sure.
Right. We don't have a jingle for this yet. Hopefully, historically, we'll get it edited in. So this is part 3 or possibly 4 of my random streaming service movie picks and recommendations that are not timely at all. That's where the jingle will go. So, Kev, have you seen Matilda the Musical?
No, my fiance has, actually, though.
What did she think of it?
Quite enjoyed it. I think surprised how much she enjoyed it.
Well,
considering how much of a classic the original Matilda is.
Well, that was my reaction too, because I'd already seen the proper show, when it was touring around England. So I knew it was, and I knew because of Tim Minchin it was quality, but I'm not sure if it's the same for you. But when I see a musical adapted from the stage to the screen, I kind of assume it's going to be a sort of subpar version of something I've already seen, like The Producer's Movie or like Les Mis, where they just kind of pointed a camera at it and cut some of the songs. But no, the Matilda musical is absolutely class. It's on Netflix, and I say this as someone who has been subjected to the songs for about 2 years now, in drama and dance classes and all that. But the movie's great. It's really colorful. They stage all the songs really well. The acting's great. It's like a really nice looking film. They kind of rearrange the songs to kind of have it kind of not flow better than the musical necessarily, but flow really well in a visual kind of like Netflix-y medium, which I think is where a lot of musicals fall down quite a lot. I mean, you, just a few weeks ago, you were talking about seeing 4 or 5 musicals, weren't you?
I went on a run there of going to see a bunch of West End musicals in London. And they do it they do it with, with glitter and socks on over there.
Mm.
Like proper West End musicals are so high budget and so uh everybody involved is so dedicated to it. Like you don't even get something like you don't even get something of that quality in a touring production that would come to, say, the Grand Canal.
Yeah.
That's like, so subtracting from that again the actual stage experience, it's a wonder any musical movies kind of contend with the stage play at all.
Well, I'm surprised that any musical movie survived Cats, frankly. But this one, I think it's because have you seen the Matilda musical at all on stage or anything like that?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not familiar with the recent run. Yeah,
Okay.
Not at all. Not at all. I'm not on TikTok. I don't get the sound.
Well, I mean, it's been too long since I've read the Matilda book, but I did used to read it a lot. I think it's the stage version does hew closer to the books in some respects, but not like in a full Tim Burton Charlie and the Chocolate Factory type way. It's just it takes some elements like a parallel story about circus people and all that and pushes that to the forefront and actually pushes the magic way, way back. This is because if you're familiar with the original Mara Wilson one, I think the magic pops in around maybe the halfway point. I think the first decisive magic, impacting the plot stuff, isn't until about 20 minutes before the end. And that's in the stage show as well, possibly for practical reasons. It's pushed very late. But they've rearranged the pieces for this Netflix movie really well. And I hope I'm pronouncing the name right. Alicia Ware is great in it. It's not often, especially in musicals, you see young actors who are that confident, especially singing into the camera. But they find ways to, and this is kind of the obstacle with a lot of movie musicals. They find ways to stage the songs really well. Because I compare it to obviously Cats are carved out, but I suppose kind of Les Mis, where there's lots of pacing back and forth and long staring into cameras, and it's just so static and dull. And like you said, it doesn't kind of capture the liveness, but this is great. It's
a lot
almost cartoonish, but not so much that it's like Baz Luhrmann's level of aggressive,
Yeah, well, I mean, sometimes you need something like a Baz Luhrmann level of aggressive because a lot of conventional filmmakers trying to do musical. Yes, I'm looking at you, Tom Hooper. Try to use a green screen and a sound stage as if they were a stage, and just try to translate that 1-to-1, but with a camera instead of an audience, and it just doesn't work. Whereas something actually Baz Luhrmann's a great pull on that. Because something like Moulin Rouge uses the staging of a camera, uses things like frantic editing, to its advantage to compensate for that lack of actual stage presence.
Well, that's just it, and it'd be worth actually because, I was sort of drawn. My attention was drawn to the film again because it was out 2 years ago. Because some people took the big end number, "We Are Revolting Children Living in Revolting Times," and played Dragula. I think, is that a Rammstein song?
The Rob Zombie song.
Rob Zombie, sorry. And they played the song to the end, big song and dance number. And whether you watch it with the original song or with Rob Zombie, you can see there's a lot of really interesting camera work on display. The choreography's on point. It looks really, really good. And pretty much even the slow musical numbers are like that. Sometimes if they just want to vary it up, they'll have characters in hot air balloons, or Emma Thompson disappears into a happy world without children for the middle bit of her song. I suppose it's not a film where they take shortcuts. You know what I mean? It feels like everything was very well thought out. And the cast are brilliant. Stephen Graham and Andrew Riseborough are great as the horrible parents. You've got Emma Thompson as the Trunchbull, which is the element I kind of worried about the most because that original Trunchbull was so iconic. But she carries it. And they capture what works really well about the stage show and make it work in the visual medium. Like there's a song that's sung through the alphabet, and you have them crashing through like rooms that have all the correct letters on it and all that kind of stuff. It just has a real kind of, I hope I'm using the right word, frenetic energy to it. And for like a 2 hour musical kids movie, I think if you didn't have that, it would fall flat on its face. But I was pleasantly surprised by it. And my 5 year old was both terrified and engaged with it. So it works on that for the audience that it's intended for. And for someone like me who's heard every single song 100 times and is sick of them, but still enjoyed it on this first viewing. So I'd recommend it very highly.
I've heard, yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about it. And if it gets the 5-year-old seal of approval, it's done its job, right?
Well, there you go. If nothing else, look up the
Which-
revolting children bit, and you'll see like, there's some like class on display here, like, you know.
Which then for one of my two streaming polls, I'll start with the one that does get the 5-year-old seal of approval. I finally watched the Mario movie.
Oh, yes. Because we talked about this ages ago, but you hadn't seen it. What do you think of it?
You know what? It's good. It's fun. It's fine. If I'm being honest, I prefer the 90s one.
Oh my God.
But no,
I've seen the memes, I'm afraid. I couldn't judge.
Oh, it's a blast. I can get into it another day because I don't like it is don't think of it as a Mario movie, but think of it as like a wild dystopic like sci-fi movie that has a Mario skin on it. I think it's on Prime. Absolutely go watch it. The start of the movie is Princess Peach as a baby coming out of an egg. It's absolutely bonkers. But
okay,
no, the Super Mario Bros.
I saw the newer Mario movie in the perfect circumstances, like opening weekend, crowded cinema full of kids. We didn't know the Peach song was going to be in it, like, you know. But I will admit, probably without all that hype, if you just like watched it on a laptop, it would probably be like, you know, pretty fine, whatever. Not.
I think I watched it in the perfect circumstances, which was at 5 p.m. and on a comfy couch on my own with a big bag of popcorn. But no, it was fine. It didn't completely knock my socks off. I can see how it made a gazillion dollars.
Yes.
And the absolute standouts were Jack Black and Seth Rogen. Like there's no getting away from it. They were a hoot and a holler.
I wasn't blown away by Seth Rogen. It just sounded like he was being like, I know he did a good job. I thought it was just kind of being Seth Rogen, you know?
You know what? It absolutely was. It was kind of straight down the barrel Seth Rogen. But there was something about you don't often get Seth Rogen antagonistically.
True.
And I think that just kind of worked.
Yeah.
And also like I think we mentioned it. I think you guys mentioned it when it first came out. Chris Pratt's kind of a nothing performance. It's not offensively bad. You kind of just forget it's him.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think it's got a pretty good cast top to bottom. Is it Charlie Day as Luigi is good casting, even though there isn't much of him in it. I thought Taylor-Joy was really good as Peach, because Peach is a character who literally doesn't talk, and I thought she gave it a lot of personality, like, you know.
Oh yeah, no, she was a lot of fun. I did get the distinct impression that they were like, okay, we can't have the princess get captured.
Yes.
What if we just have her win every fight?
Well, I mean, the trade-off, and I thought it was a clever trade-off, was to essentially have Luigi as the princess who needs rescue.
Yeah.
Which,
it was clever.
That tracks with Luigi's mansion. Yeah, fine.
Completely, yeah.
I was a bit disappointed by Keegan-Michael Key as Toad. That was the one I was excited for.
I was so let down because they pitched him up and didn't give him a lot. I was why hire Keegan-Michael Key then if you're not gonna just have him be that?
I mean, because I follow people on Instagram and stuff who literally their entire persona is doing the Toad voice and saying things that Toads shouldn't say. I met the Toad actor, the lovely woman who, I'll get her name now, who plays Princess Peach and Toad in the real video games, and asked her to do that, and she did. It's hilarious, you know? Like in front of my daughter, she goes, oh no, why'd you burn the toast again? It's like it's funny, and it was not a Toad voice, and you've got a really
Yeah,
funny guy not doing a funny voice, it just seemed like
and
a missed
that's it.
opportunity.
And he wasn't in a lot. Like I think they probably with how sparingly he was used, they could have gotten away with the shrillness.
That's it, exactly. Or you could at least have him be like, all 100 million toads and have that be a joke or something,
Yeah,
But whatever. It's a kids' movie and they kind of have to invent the grammar of Mario cinematically. Whatever. It ticked all the boxes, in that respect.
that's it. It was bright, it was colorful, it was full of references. I had fun watching it, and the second one is going to make another several $billion.
Probably, yes.
Uh,
But just to kind of because I know we've got a lot to kind of cover. You mentioned something called Scavengers Reign.
so yeah, this is the one I wanna really flag specifically to you
Okay.
because I really like science fiction, right? And I feel like I've been lacking. I feel like there's been an empty hole in my soul for it since I finished The Expanse several years ago. And we don't keep Brain around anymore to yell at you about The Expanse, which you should also watch, but that's not the conversation for today. And Scavengers Reign has neatly filled that hole. What this is, so a little bit of backstory on this is that this is actually a HBO Max show that
Which
released.
I'll never see it, but however.
Well, see, that's the thing. It was a HBO Max show that obviously was not available here. HBO put it up and immediately cancelled it because, of course, they did. That seems to be the business plan. But interestingly, somehow a deal came around where Netflix now has the streaming rights to it as well.
Okay.
And I don't know if this is like an exclusivity thing for like Ireland or if they're like testing the waters to kind of like branch things from Max out to other platforms. It's an odd one. I don't know the business plan there. But it gave this show kind of a second lease of life. Now, I don't think anybody's expecting a second season to get announced, but it's such an interesting pivot. And I heard nothing but praise when it first came out, and I was kind of sick that I couldn't watch it. But now here we are, and it is one of the best science fiction shows I've ever seen.
Okay, you've got me intrigued. What is it about?
So it's an animated series. The premise is a space shipping freighter spaceship basically comes under some calamity in the orbit of a far distant alien planet. Only a handful of survivors make it down in the pods, and they're spread so far out across the actual width of the planet that none of them know if anyone else is alive.
Okay,
and
I'm looking at the artwork, by the way, and it's a real pretty looking show.
Oh, it's gorgeous. And it's each of these little pods of people or a couple of people trying to just survive and find a way to escape this planet. Okay. And part of what's so fascinating is the ecology of this planet is exceptionally hostile, but also weirdly gorgeous and symbiotic with each other. They managed to find a use for kind of every piece of flora and fauna, and it's all done visually. There's not it's not expositing. It's a show that very much revels in show don't tell.
I know this is very trite as an observation, but because we're in a non-visual medium, I'm kind of getting both Studio Ghibli and that anime you recommended to me years ago about the ones going down the massive hole.
It's got a bit of Made in Abyss. It does have that.
Thank you.
What I kind of found when I was watching it was a lot of oh God, what's his name? Samurai Jack.
Okay.
The animator. What's his name?
I'm just looking at sort of the gorgeous flora and fauna and all that.
He's got a really distinctive name. What the hell's his name? He did the Star Wars short as well.
Clone Wars.
Primals and his Gendy Tarkovsky. Gendy Tarkovsky's. It's got a very Gendy Tarkovsky DNA.
Okay.
Particularly Primal. which, if you don't know, is another animated series. I don't know where that is actually. Now to think of it, but the whole thing with Primal is that it's set in like prehistoric times with a caveman trying to survive, and there's no dialogue. He is just trying to survive against these prehistoric animals, and it is all visual. It's gorgeous.
That does sound awesome.
But yeah, no, I don't want to say too much about Scavengers Reign because half of the brilliance is just in watching what this planet unfolds.
So it is set in one setting, like.
Yeah, it's all set on this one planet.
Okay.
But
it sounds a bit like a No Man's Sky play that's got horribly wrong.
Yeah, kind of exactly that. Yeah, it's gorgeous, but also that no, this is not a show for kids. It's a cartoon.
I was going to tiptoe towards that because it looks very family friendly. Like,
no, like, and I think that's the other thing that's kind of refreshing. It's adult oriented, but it's not excessively violent,
right?
Which I think is the line that kind of does get towed with a lot of these kind of things. It's violent, and the violence is stark, but it's not like
a gore fest. Like,
it's not a gore fest. It's not reveling in the cruelty of it. It's kind of showing like, no, this planet is uncaring, it's unloving, and that's the reality. It kind of takes a very brutalist look at it.
Okay, well, I know you can't reveal too much about the plot, but like, how many episodes are there? Length, like,
so
how long would I have to lock my children in the cupboard so I can watch this?
It's a 12-episode show that's about 20 minutes, but I would say it's a show that really benefits from watching piecemeal. I don't think it'd be a show that would benefit you binging it. I watch about maybe an episode or two at a time every couple of days, and that's, I think, the ideal way to watch it. If you can keep yourself to like an episode a week, that's probably the best way. Because I think if you binge it, you'll glaze over just so many small details,
right,
that the show kind of just tries to luxuriate in, that I think like you kind of need to let it sit in the gray matter for a little bit.
Okay, all right. One of those like BoJack Horseman style situations. Okay,
it's a thinker. It's a bit of a thinker, and there's a couple of parts of the show. Like, I think one piece that really stood out to me is two of the characters are trying to get through this wall. They find out like it looks like a wall of complete like concrete pillars. You can't get like, there's no hole small enough to get through it. They're really just like, and they have to get through this way to find like an escape plan. They find out one of the local kind of like flightless birds has this way of just running straight through it. Push comes to shove, they manage to find like basically the key to get through this wall. The wall is, and like that's that the wall moves around them. But in there, one of them.
Don't tell me anymore because I want to go and watch it for myself.
Okay.
But okay, that sounds awesome. I'm really glad to have that recommended to me. But I believe you've also seen two very, very popular things, which I've not seen yet. I have children. I apologize. I can watch Matilda.
I'm watching a bunch of shows the kids can't watch these days. I'm too hardcore like that, you know.
Right, well, go on. This is Nerd to Know Media After Dark. So
After Dark, still on at 5. After Dark.
It's audio.
Middle of summer. After dark.
It is. All right. So I believe you've seen House of the Dragon and The Boys.
Yeah, I'm up to date. Which I'm actually surprised about. Frankly, for myself on these ones, I had the time. I'm waiting for Final Fantasy 14 to come out, and don't have any other video games to play right now. So I decided to kind of keep
when
keep
the
up
sunlight
with
gets to here, we can play Final Fantasy 14 again.
Kian, you have no idea. Kian, you don't know. Dawn Trail comes out on Friday, and the servers are down for maintenance for 48 hours. I don't know what to do with myself for 2 days.
Oh, get in line. The Edgeworth Investigations game for waiting for ages coming in September.
I don't know, man. Life's hard.
It'll change your life. You'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll move around the space unlike any other lawyer game. But anyway, sorry. Tell me about your shows.
Yeah, so I mean, I think like the no quantity. We've talked about the boys here before,
We have indeed.
and I like while we're only about 4 episodes in, it is much and more of the same, which specifically means I can't talk about a lot of what happens on air because we're on at 5. But
Right. Okay.
it plays in the very same wheelhouse, just kind of pushing the well.
What did the deep do? Beleaguered sigh.
But he's still in trouble for the whole octopus thing last season.
Oh, yeah, but he was in trouble before that.
Well, he hasn't done anything great, but that's mostly because they're
Like
so
this
the
is
whole
my
premise.
relationship to like when I started watching The Boys, I was like
Hmm.
horrified. And now it's at the stage where I'm like a disappointed uncle. It's like,
To be fair,
God, well,
to
you
be
went and
fair,
talked to Homelander. Really, this is on you.
to be fair, I listen. I'm not squeamish. I've seen a lot of like pretty grisly stuff and been pretty okay with it. There has been two distinct scenes in this season that have me go, "Ooh no, ooh boy."
Oh God, well I am
Uh,
squeamish. What am I supposed to do?
one involves a frontal lobotomy,
Jesus.
and the other, well, we'll just say it involves a lot of self love in a guy who can clone himself. I
Oh
won't.
Jesus.
I won't.
All
I
right.
won't
Well,
elaborate.
okay. I know you can't give the plot away,
But
but
no, the whole thing, like the kind of the push now is that Vought are like leaning into far right conspiracy theorists to try and like push back on Starlight and her kind
all
of
the bad
whole
press. Yeah.
and all the bad press and kind of her very leftist kind of her very like liberal kind of view on things. So that's kind of the main push, and then the boys are obviously still doing what the boys do,
Yeah.
except now they're CIA agents.
Has it tied into the spin-off at all yet?
I don't know. I never watched it actually.
Oh, you should. It's really good.
I heard it again fully. Like I probably actually watched that like over the next day or two,
Hmm.
as well. Like it just completely slipped under my radar. Prime is just not one of those apps I open to check things unless I'm specifically looking for something. I don't believe so. If they've mentioned it, it's gone over my head.
Okay, all right.
Um, but yeah, no, they like it really like it's what I'm kind of like at least as far as like a little halfway through the season. It's just interesting that they are still able to push all of these cast of the characters at to their lowest points once again.
Is it reaching the stage now where, because I know that, like, I'm kind of a fan of Attack on Titan, and I know that you're not mad on it, but, like, is
Hmm.
it reaching the stage where, like, certain characters have plot armor? Like, in such an edgy, like, show, you know?
I wouldn't say plot armor, but if it's starting to feel like the wheels are spinning a bit out of control.
Okay.
And I think like the big news, I don't know if you heard, they've announced that the next season, so
Is the
season 5,
last one.
it's going to be the last one, and I
I
think
think
that's
that's a good
probably
call. Yeah, there's only
yeah.
so long where you can kind of maintain that level of danger and sort of edginess before, like, unless you're like South Park, maybe you can't keep that tension for too long. So that sounds like the right call. Like,
Yeah, no, like that's it's all very glamorous until we've seen it all, and we're just like, okay. But no, like the pace is still there, the energy is still there. Carl Urban is still a force of nature to watch on screen. Um, and yeah, no, I like
Jack Quaid
it
still
as
pulling the ring. Yes.
yes, Jack. Yeah, Boimler is still Boimlering. And then the new characters have actually been a blast so far. So the two new ones who basically are like the two new members of the Seven are Sister Stage, who is the smartest woman alive and is basically the Machiavellian prince that's getting behind Homelander,
Right.
which obviously can only go well having somebody behind him who can plot deviously.
Right.
That's definitely what he needs. And then Firecracker, who is this just right-wing conspiratorial nutbat who is now on the most powerful, who is now in the Justice League, essentially,
Oh,
having a gun-toting redneck American.
See, I always approach because I waited ages to watch series 3 of The Boys, partially because I saw that Butcher was getting powers, and immediately I was like, oh no. But then I watched it, and of course they made it work. But I always enter a new series of The Boys with extreme excitement and trepidation, because I know I'm going to watch it pretty much in one sitting, but it's also not going to be entirely a fun time. I cannot relate it to any other life experience I can think of.
No, because you immediately think of well, I just saw a whole lot of rancid stuff that's going to stick with me for a while.
That's just it. But then you go to your play school pickup, and the parents of the other 5-year-olds are like, "Did you see The Boys?" I'm like, "Yeah, but we can't talk about it."
But the reason,
what are we supposed to do?
But the reason that you keep watching it, the reason it keeps getting back to it, is because it's actually very, very good in its character writing. And particularly in its drama. Oh my god, there is a Greek tragedy that just unfolds as you learn more about Frenchie's life. As that man is just upsetting to watch because of the decisions he made. And it's enthralling.
Well, that's just it. The non-superhero characters are just as complex and interesting as the superhero ones.
Yeah, no, it's a blast. I'll probably come back. I'd say we'll probably have a deeper talk about it when it's done.
I'll properly catch up. Yeah, but what about? Because I haven't actually seen any House of the Dragon. So, what's the dealio there?
So, House of the Dragon. It's actually funny that we're talking about character writing, because that's a show that kind of really hinges on it.
Okay.
And it's we're kind of halfway there. I think it's. Did you didn't watch any of the first season, did you?
No, I don't have HBO thingy.
Here
also, I've only seen the first 4 seasons of the show.
Okay. You're fine.
Yeah,
you're fine. You can. Okay. You know what? You hit probably as good a point as I need to stop.
Well, it wasn't out of some moral principle. It's just I heard the series 5 they were changing things from the book, and I was I like the books. I'll just let it run on.
And you're fine, and you're fine. That's exactly it. But no, so House of the Dragon it's a prequel series taking place centuries beforehand, during the dynasty of the Targaryens. So season 1 was really interesting because it took place over the course of a handful of decades. Starting with the coronation of the new King Viserys, and him raising his daughter and her best friend, who eventually, due to the death of the queen, gets married in and becomes queen herself.
Right.
Becoming the foster mother to her friend, Rhaenyra. And par for the course, Game of Thrones political thriller.
So it's got kind of more of an I, Claudius type structure than Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that the first season, it kind of had this energy because it was taking place. Some episodes would jump 10 years, and then halfway through they recast most of the main cast as they got older into adulthood, and you kind of got that interesting kind of spin. Season 2 now, they've confirmed they're not doing any major time jumps, and where season 1 end was basically the beginning of a Targaryen civil war in Westeros.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard of the Dance of Dragons.
I know you read the book back when we were in the shop.
Yeah. But pretty major thing that happened. I think people compared people say George R. R. Martin based a lot of Game of Thrones on the actual War of the Roses. This is much closer to a War of the Roses situation.
Okay, because the original books were pretty close to begin with.
Yeah, this is actual. Oh, the king is dead, and there is a full fracture in the line of in the monarchy lineage.
Well, this is because that was kind of what season 2 of Game of Thrones and book 2 of the book series was about. So how is this different substantially to sort of glory era Game of Thrones TV, like.
Do you know what? It's kind of a narrower focus.
Okay.
Like it's and again, this is the story. This is kind of the story that's roughly in Fire and Blood. Is the primary focus are on the kind of the two leads on Rhaenyra and on Alicent.
Right. Oh, I apologize. Dance of Dragons is a different book than the Dragon.
Dance of Dragons is one of the. Dance of the Dragons is one of the
House
Game
of
of Thrones
Dragons
books.
Is based on the different prequel book.
Based on part of the. Okay, so.
Everyone, bear with us. Go get a sandwich.
Bear with us. Fire and Blood is a comprehensive, like, history book of all of the Targaryen monarchs.
And that's the one you read that was like the size of Order of the Phoenix. Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah. Now that's only half of the monarchs. He's writing another one. Georgie's always writing. So that's one thing that's really interesting. This only really factors into about 100 pages of that book because this is one Targaryen monarchy out of dozens, you know?
I'm sorry, you just put it in my head. I think George R. R. Martin was on stage with Stephen King, and George R. R. Martin was just like, how do you do that? How do you release 3 books a year?
The answer is cocaine.
That's the most honest thing any writer has ever said, ever. Like,
yeah. But when it comes to Stephen King, the answer is cocaine, and that would kill George. So, but back to history books. So, yes. House of the Dragon only really takes about 100 pages out of Fire and Blood and is adapting it into about 4 seasons of television. But the interesting thing about Fire and Blood is that Fire and Blood is written as a historical account. It's not like a novel. So it's a really interesting thing to actually read that and then watch the show because there's a lot of interesting liberties being taken in the show with just how certain like major events are framed from one to the other. Because, well, actually, the interesting thing about Fire and Blood is that George R. R. Martin, in the fiction of the book, cast himself as a Maester of the Citadel, transcribing these historical notes.
But isn't that a nice kind of get out of jail free card? Because if the show deviates, then you can say, well, the history books were manipulated or
this is like exactly it's a biased history, so it's a really interesting kind of adaptational point. But there is still the point of this is 4 seasons of television adapting about 100 pages of a history novel.
You clearly have never read Ulysses.
No, I'm not a madman.
I saw a play once that was adapted from 5 lines of Ulysses, and it was an hour play.
I've read the Odyssey. I get it.
Yes, but stuff happens in the Odyssey.
But yeah, so as we pick up season 2, the Civil War is in full swing now.
Right.
And we're just watching these two sects, these two armies just tear each other apart, but also try to manipulate it. But also they might be tearing each other apart from within because the current king who sits on the throne is an insane 18-year-old who thinks that well, a rat catcher killed my son. What if I kill all the rat catchers?
A mad young king on the throne in Westeros. What could possibly go wrong?
I know. It's almost like we have history here. I think it's it's too early to say.
Yeah.
With a lot of House of the Dragon because I think it's a slow build. But I'm gonna keep at it. I think it's refreshing having Game of Thrones back and it not be awful. I'm sitting because man, that last season was awful.
Yeah. My wife Stevie watched it and like we had so much anti-hype, and I didn't watch it, but like it just having it described to me, which I know isn't the fairest way to assess anything, but like it was almost like it was given to someone else to write and they had to do it. Otherwise, something horrible was going to happen to them. There was like
I mean,
both
I'm,
rushed
I'm,
and reluctant.
I'm fully of the belief that they completely rushed to get it out the door and finish it, so they could move on to the Star Wars project the two lads were handed.
I've heard that, but like Star
But then
Wars,
got
say
canned.
what you will about Star Wars, but it is as curated as it is. It's not like they're being handed like episode 10 on a deadline. Like I'm sure they would have waited for them, like, you know?
No. And again, you got to remember the time this was at. This was like, I think this was before episode 9 dropped even. Like this was all in production post Last Jedi. Star Wars was hot. Star Wars was still
Yeah,
huge.
I suppose.
You know, we're not like it's not now where we've gotten a glut of it and we're all kind of sick of it. No, it was big, and to be in Disney's pocket then was money. You were like,
why not just give it to someone else to write then? Like,
because these were the guys that were helming it from the beginning.
I know, but like, I mean, George R. R. Martin said you could do like 9, 10, 11 seasons if there were people stuck around with it. Like, why did you have to finish it? Like,
because George had to leave to go finish the book that he's still been writing for a decade. And these guys were like, no, I'm going to finish this show now and move on to my Star Wars project. And then they got canned from that because it was so bad.
No,
they rushed an ending and felt consequences for their actions. And by the sound of things, have been blacklisted by like.
If Game of Thrones explodes, will we get like some sort of like Rosencrantz and Guildenstern style, like in betweequel, whatever you call it, where we sort of get a do-over of Series 8 but from a different point of view or something like that? Because it seems like the problem isn't necessarily the story itself, but the fact that it's like crammed in at massive speed, like.
No, they were the point is that they just started making stuff up, speculating on what the end of the books would be after cutting huge swaths of it in the meantime.
Yeah, it did like I only know through the extended media and like Lindsay Allen stuff, but it had the vibe of like when I play this game in drama called Story Circle, where it's like, you know, such and such went to the shop, and then second person goes, and they got an ice cream. And then the third person goes, and the ice cream was on fire and it blew up his head. And then the fourth person goes, but the head grew back and now he was a donkey. Like, it just sort of seemed like, well, that's a bit random for that way to end. Okay.
Yeah, no.
She's driven mad by bells. That makes sense.
No, the way I see, if Game of Thrones getting a reappraisal, I think will only really happen if Georgie finishes and releases the franchise.
Yeah.
If he finishes those 2 books, maybe a couple of decades down the line, Amazon Prime remakes Game of Thrones because they seem to be putting all their money into fantasy.
The prospect of a whole new Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings, it's like, oh, I'm done. Go away. We did it.
And you see why I am out here saying everyone should go watch Scavengers Reign.
Oh.
Because it's not just something we've already seen.
Oh,
Ian, we've got 10 minutes. Can I tell you about how
the Acolyte?
Which I
don't even hate. I'm just tired of. No, I said that already. See what this television is doing to me? Talking about repetitive television is making me a repetitive person.
Kian. Can I tell you about just how good Fast 10 is?
We did that. No.
I told you about how great.
It took 2 episodes, but we did it. It's done.
I told you about how great Fast 1 through 9 is.
No, I know it ends on a cliff. I haven't seen it, but I've heard it's this is quality radio content. Okay, all right. Okay,
oh, no,
all right, but I want to talk about Discovery afterwards, and I want a biscuit too.
Okay, no, we obviously Dara told you about Fast, so we'll talk Discovery.
I'm gonna watch your anime thing because it's new. Remember new? Me neither, because it's new.
I remember new.
Okay, well, it's not new, but let's talk Star Trek.
It's new to me, damn it.
Well, okay. By the time this episode goes out, in fact, the day that this episode airs, Netflix will drop an entire season of Prodigy Series 2. But amidst all of the angry Star Wars chat, we've actually been trying to talk about Discovery for about 5 weeks now. And
Yeah, Discovery just kind of ended like a month
yeah,
ago.
I think you and I and your dad might be the only people who've seen it. So I feel like it's our duty to fly the 31st century flag of Discovery. Like,
Well, see, the thing is I kind of it kind of did end, not with a whimper, but like it didn't end with a bang.
no, but it ended consistently good, which for Star Trek is a minor miracle.
Fair. Yeah, like that's. I think like to kind of speak broadly is the lot like season 5 came out and happened, and the premise of this season was a treasure hunt to find the progenitors technology, which was a seeded plot point in a Next Generation episode.
Yes. Yeah. Well,
but basically
it goes back further. You're going to run into this in Next Generation. The progenitors are mentioned in a weird episode where Kirk loses his memory and thinks he's married to a Native American woman. That's 60s Star Trek. But yes, you're right. This goes back to the Next Generation episode where, like you say, there's a treasure hunt. And it turns out that all kind of bipedal life originates from this one like Mass Effect style ancient omnipotent species that's now long gone. So, like, did you have any expectations going into this season?
I kind of did actually. Or at least the one kind of like piece of speculation I had, simply kind of going off the design of the progenitor that we saw in Next Generation that they brought back, that they showed in a clip in Discovery.
Yeah,
and it seemed like they looked to me a lot like the Founders, a lot like the Changelings from Deep Space Nine. And
well, that's the same
was
actor,
always
actually.
Yeah.
Salome something is the main changeling that isn't Odo. She's
Yes.
that character as well.
Yeah, and like I was wondering if there was going to be any sort of link.
You're right, because
any sort of link
kind of card recently enough. Yeah.
Yeah,
I was like,
different
time,
there was a link there. But that's the other thing is like the interesting thing about Discovery since it jumped to the 30th century was seeing what different races, as we knew them in the prime Star Trek chronology, are doing 1,000 years after the fact. Yes. Like it actually took me so long to realize that Rillick was at least partially Cardassian.
Yes, this is the president, isn't it?
The president, yeah. Which obviously having the president of the Federation be a Cardassian is really interesting.
Yes.
And so,
no, you're right, and I love the whole. Like, I know this is season 3, but I love the fact that like the Vulcan and Romulus are united, but not in the Federation. That's like an interesting link to Spock and Next Generation and all that kind of stuff. But it doesn't it's not overbearingly so. Like,
no, and I think it's things like that where it excelled. And so this is me hoping for something it wasn't, so I can't really begrudge it this much.
Right.
But I was looking forward to, I was hoping to see some sign of, well, what are the changelings? What are changelings doing now in the 30th century? And do they have anything to do with it? It was speculation, but it was something that crossed my mind, and I think I'm surprised that it didn't cross theirs.
Yes, but the Breen.
Exactly.
The Breen who are like Boba Fett levels of popular for someone who's been in Star Trek so little. Like I really liked the way they were presented in this season. Like,
yeah, it was such a great peek behind the curtain that we'd never gotten before, especially into like their kind of like a hierarchical kind of monarchy society.
Yeah, it was because visually they're quite Star Wars looking. Or a little bit Battlestar Galactica with the kind of eye things. But like they had an entire working culture that was sort of vaguely Klingon-ish, but also more tribal and more backwards looking. Like it felt like they really worked it out behind the scenes before. They weren't just like evil villains who villained. Like, and I was really initially quite nervous for two reasons. One, because there was kind of this sort of Romeo and Juliet thing with the villains. And two, because like I remember early Discovery where they went on the big long kind of diatribes about philosophy and God. I'm like, oh God, they're gonna actually go find God. Like they're gonna like, oh, but then actually they made it work. I really liked all the characters in this. I really liked how they went on their little quest and it became a
But
big diplomatic thing and it kept escalating and you kind of found out the inner workings of the new federation through Saru and yeah, I just felt
but
this was incredibly solid. Like
Kian, what does God need with a spaceship?
apparently nothing based on that last episode.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of where like I enjoyed because it was very episodic, where it was let's go to this planet, see what's going on, learn a little moral lesson while we try to figure out
Yeah.
this puzzle piece, and then move on to the next. And you know what? I
Yeah.
enjoyed it. Like
And
the settings were interesting enough to like, I liked the library aspect. I liked another look at
oh,
the
that
trails.
librarian, I want her to come back. That
Great.
vaguely over polite Klingon librarian. Like I
Yeah.
find a way for her to pop up in Strange New Worlds. I mean, she's a hologram anyway. Who says she ages?
So that was a lot of fun. And then we hit the finale where they basically finish the puzzle, end up in this extra dimensional space that the progenitors created as like
Yeah.
kind of as basically a giant Genesis machine, for lack of a better way of putting it.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think like I found it got a bit tied up in moralizing itself.
Right. But I mean, you could just say that about Discovery at any period.
You kind of can. No, you kind of can though as well. I think that's probably it's
For
it's
an accidental last episode, even though it was underwhelming, I felt like it was a really good like. Well, this is kind of where Burnham's always been going, to meet with God and talk to God, and decide not to use God. Like that's very Star Trek and very her and Discovery particularly. Like
Yeah. But in saying that, where I think where I do think it stuck the landing then was in its epilogue.
Oh, okay, because that's where it actually lost my wife.
I like I didn't realize how invested I was in Michael and Buck until she got back on the Bridge of Discovery and basically left Zora out in the middle of nowhere. Is that what happened? Am I remembering that right? I'm saying it out loud now, and I'm like, wait a second.
Oh my god. Is this Zora the Sun, or?
No, Zora was the AI who was in Discovery.
Oh, well, did you ever watch the short tracks?
Yeah.
Basically, yeah, one of the short tracks is, and bear in mind, this was before season 2 came out, was the ship basically being abandoned in the far, 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 far future, and some guy chancing upon it, and it had been on its own so long that the computer had gone insane and had taken on sentience. And they retroactively fit the time jump and the ship coming alive in around this random short trek that was never meant to tie into anything, which is an impressive amount of effort to justify that plot point. Like,
I thought you meant the short animated ones. No, I actually never got around to watching any of those.
Oh, they're really good. There's 2 seasons of Short Trek on Paramount, and they're all really strong. Like, you get like, and there's important stuff in there. How Saru joins Starfleet is in there. Like,
okay, I'll have to go back to that then.
Yeah, and like they're only like 10 minutes each. Then and you get like the Strange New Worlds and Harry Mudd and all that. They're good fun. Like,
okay, no, that's something, because that was a question mark I kind of had hanging over me a bit.
This is it, because the 5th season was kind of, they did like a time jump episode where they were jumping around time, staying in the same room. So I was kind of thinking, oh, they're using this episode to justify not killing the crew and leaving the ship abandoned somewhere. But then they did it anyway, so why not? Why not?
Yeah. just write themselves back into that corner. Okay, well, listen, Kian, we are actually out of time.
No.
We had left ourselves pretty shortchanged on Discovery, but we can always come back to it in the day.
That is true. No, I think we got the general gist of it across.
Yeah.
It's rags to riches. Everyone hated it, and then everyone who hated it forgot about it, and now the few people who are watching it love it. What a way to go. It's hiding in the future where 3 people enjoy it.
Where you can too, if you buy a Paramed subscription. I promise you, it's only worth it for Star Trek.
I mean, they should put that on the app, really. Unless you like SpongeBob, I suppose.
Unless anybody out here is watching Yellowstone.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie's up there.
Actually, yeah, that's so true. That's so good. That Mutant Mayhem is so good. Anyway, thank you all for listening. If you like what we do, you can check out all of our other shows on Spotify feeds. And all the shows that are now on YouTube, as we mentioned up the top. Dara's re-uploading a load of our old stuff. You can go back and watch us all unravel in the height of the COVID lockdowns, because that's where we're at now.
Yeah, it's a shame we didn't do cameras. You could watch our faces, just
No, I think it's for the best we didn't. I don't think it would have been.
Oh, you say that. You don't age.
No, but I don't think I was doing well. And as always, you can find everything, all of our links to everything on nerdtoknowmedia.com on our website. And there as well, you can find your Patreon if you like what we do. Appreciate throwing a few bucks our way. Always great. And until then, I've been Kev.
I've been Kev.
I've been Dave. And we'll
he's
see
been
you
Dara.
next week.
I've been tired.
And we're done.
I'm going to sleep. I don't care if it's only 6 o'clock.
Alright, so you're listening to the podcast, you're like, hey, I'm not in Ireland, how do I get in touch? Well, TuneIn has you covered. That's how you can check us out live when we're on the radio. You go to TuneIn and download the app, or you can check out the live streams on nerdtoknowmedia.com or Phoenix 92.5 FM. If you want to get in contact with us, it's very easy. Nerd to Know Media everywhere. Nerd to Know Media on Twitter, Nerd to Know Media Instagram, Nerd to Know Media on Twitch, Nerd to Know Media at gmail.com if you want to reach out via email. Hope to hear from you soon.
Thank you for listening to a Nerd to Know Media production.